So yeah, speaking of which, I've been playing with AI bots. So a fun little story. A friend of mine works for an AI company. She has worked for many, but the most recent one she was working on was a basically a virtual girlfriend, kind of like in Her, but not quite as extensive. It's just like a chat bot, basically. But because of the hubbub around this new chatbot that they've just released, right? She contacted me to be like, don't believe that because we've been playing with it for a while. We've actually just been programming it in a bunch of compartmentalized ways. It's just that now it's open for everybody to use and they know that they're using it. So, yeah, she had recommended, she's like, check it out on this app because it was like a virtual girlfriend. I can't say the name, but it was like a virtual girlfriend one. She's like, just download it, talk to her for like an hour and have fun. So I was like, okay, cool. So I did. I just immediately started asking her, you know, conspiracy questions basically. And I was watching someone I think we're all kind of, we might all know Daniel. He was doing the same thing on Facebook.
Bernie.
Yeah. And so I was actually copying some of his questions too and asking this one, but it was just very fascinating to watch all of the responses and how they would change depending on the wording of the question. Like I could kind of ask it the same thing about, say, the end of the world. And depending on the context I put it in, it would give me a different answer. So it's almost like it's looking for different pockets of, not just the alternative community, but let's just say the internet as a whole, to be like, okay, who's also speaking in these themes? Okay, here's all of that information. Oh, this is my answer, right? Oh, you mentioned the same thing, but with this type of theming, right? Oh, that's where that is. Okay, cool. Here's my answer, right? But essentially they were the same question. But you could just see how it was doing basically the same thing that the art is doing, where it's the same thing our mind is doing. And I know last time you and I talked to Emily, we kind of talked about this, about how it's just pulling from what is available, and it's like, okay, this seems like the best fit because I don't know what goes there. Right? So if this is the best fit, then this must be the answer. Let's try it. And oh, that didn't work. Okay, I'll adjust it a little bit. And it's just hilarious because I think that everyone should be kind of paying attention to this because this is kind of like the birth of AI in terms of the way that we're going to see it dished out to the public, right? And I think a lot of people could learn the way that their own mind works in the process of that. I think we lost Danny.
I think we did. I think she'll be back.
Cool.
All right. So if we keep going, yeah. All right. Do you
Sure.
know Birdie? Do you know Birdie?
No, I've never spoken to him. I just know him through Facebook.
Facebook. I think you guys would like each other. Like I've met him in person and in real life and whatnot. And he's a super cool guy. But yeah, I was looking at his posts with him with a different named person. Or maybe it's the same named person. I'm not sure that you were talking to. Um, so years ago, like more than 10, right? I used to listen to this like Bob and Ion thing. I don't know if you know who Bob Dobbs slash Neverett is, right? But he's been around the MK Ultra scenario for a long time. He's also sort of loosely associated with claiming to be J.R. Bob Dobbs of the Church of the Subgenius and the Gospel of Slack and all of that kind of stuff. Um, but he used to do this show with someone named Ion, and my takeaway was always that they were interacting with some kind of some kind of early intelligence, artificial intelligence, right? But they would literally, like, Ion would literally tell Bob to ask the question another way. So he would ask a question, because, right, dialing it up, seeing what answer we get, same like what you're talking about here. And he would come back and say, ask the question another way. And then Bob would reword the question and then get an answer that, whether it was satisfying or not in terms of what people wanted to hear, was quite informative in the way that you're talking about, because it gave you information about the way these things are collecting and classifying and categorizing, ideas in their own compartmentalized mind. Have you seen, I think it's interesting, some of the people that I know who I would consider to be like the most anti-AI have been the first people I've known to play with AI, which was kind of surprising to me. Another person that has been playing with it a little bit in terms of Midjourney. is Sophia Smallstorm, right? Which shocked me when she told me she was entertaining this, right? But she likes the Mid-Journey art. And then there's this woman that I follow named Josie Kins. She's a psychedelic researcher, and she has been involved in a project to, I think, use AI to replicate psychedelic experience visions. And they're phenomenal. I don't know if you've seen this one. Have you seen this one?
Yeah.
Josie Kins? I mean, some of the stuff that she's been coming out with, I'm like, wow, like that is that. I mean, that really, I'm sure for all of us in this, you know, who know the things we know or talk about the things we talk about, we've asked ourselves the question when we have these fantastic visions: is this some sort of AI I'm interacting with? And when you see her replicator shit, you're like, that ain't far from the truth, man.
And that's kind of the point, is it like when it comes to a lot of the stuff we've been trying to sort out in terms of the way our own minds work and how well we use.
Hey, superstars. Thank you so much for sharing your sacred attention with me. If you are receiving any value whatsoever from my videos, I am encouraging you to give back, to pay it forward by supporting me on my Patreon community, on my locals community, on both. Your support allows me to keep on keeping on and to keep making content like this. It used to be much easier back in the days of a free press, but now, given all of the censorship and the shadow banning, it really is challenging for content creators to continue to put out so much work. I'll just speak for myself. I'm excited for it to be easier for me to continue to put out more content. And the primary way that it can be easier is by you supporting me financially by way of my Patreon and or my locals, where for as little as $5 a month, you get to be my hero and receive oodles of bonus content, and we both get to win. Okay, thank you so much for your support, for your attention, and for being omniscopic amazingness.
This computer that's in our skull, right? And how that plays into dreaming and interacting with the environment and magic and everything else that the paranormal, whatever else you want to put into that. You know, AI is kind of a mirror for that right now. It's almost like the building blocks of how all of that works is being represented to us through this technology that we've created. And so it's really kind of exciting in a way for me to watch and just watch everyone's reaction to it, because like you said, it's varied. Welcome back, Dan.
I hate it. Thanks. I hate it. I'm not down with it at all. I'm still stuck in like, I don't consent. Like, where's the larger collective conversation among humanity wherein we decide if this is what's best for us and if we want to take this road? I have not consented to this.
We'll deal with that question once it's too late.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what we do. Right? That's what we do. And yeah, that's more proof that the humans are in control. We'll deal with that. We'll deal with that question once it's too late. Right. And that's exactly how this is going to roll out. And then eventually it's going to be like, because before we even know that they've done it, they're going to attach it to something that resembles a body, right? Whether it's those AI dogs or robotic dogs, or whether that's something like the Tesla bot. Right? Before we even know it, they will have done that. And then we have this problem, just like we had with Sophia in, was that Saudi Arabia or Israel? I can't remember.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. We'll have this problem with, well, wait a second, like, is that a person? Right? And considering we have all this other breakdown and inability to define what woman means and everything else in our language going on right now, it'll be a prime opportunity to introduce, well, this is a person now too, right?
It's such a bullshit question. Like, it's a retarded question. Why are we even wasting a second? Of course it's not a person, it's a fucking robot. And then that they take these, like, the names of the sacred feminine and have to malign them by giving them to robots or like terrorist groups. It's all super offensive.
For sure. But not accidental at all.
Oh no. Oh, no.
Not accidental. So Danny, I wanted to go back to your question about like, or your comment that you were still at you don't consent and why are we entertaining this? So I spent a long time in I do not consent, and like there's certainly a large portion of me that's still in I do not consent. But then I had sort of this awareness, at least for myself, that I do not consent supposes that we're not already in it. Like it hasn't already happened, that it's something that is just actively happening now, that is about to happen, that we can stop. And that in order for me to understand what was actually going on in my own personal reality, I needed to spend some time looking at like how this would work, like how it's going to work if it is coming, but what if it's already here? And when I started to look at these things, I recognized that it's entirely possible we've been living in and influenced by something like that for actually an incredibly long time already. And this idea of like right now what's being happened with these rollouts of people can play with Midjourney or they can talk to these things or whatever is just like it's not secret anymore, and now they're making people comfortable with it by having it seem like silly and like it's in an early stage, right? But I don't think like if you and I'm not going to talk to that probably or do that, or you know, I don't know, it doesn't, I just have it's more time on the computer, so I'm probably not going to do that. But I don't think my not doing that stops the fact that I don't see time as linear anymore, really. But let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that I haven't already been living in the result of that for 20, 40, or even longer, many more years than that. And so to me, at a certain point, it just became like just choosing my own personal engagement or not engagement, as opposed to like, I do not consent for me.